Well, I at least hope this time we're recording.
Yeah, it looks like there's a thing up on top now that wasn't there before.
Steve and I are up here in St. Paul before the eve of Guzzle-n-TWIRL, which was named because they used to hold it in St. Peter's Church in North St. Paul. And the guzzle referred to beer and the twirl referred to dancing. They would have a dance at the conclusion of Guzzle-n-TWIRL. Collectors would come from all over. I believe it's in its 40-some years. They're setting up today and it'll be open to the public tomorrow from 9 to 3. We always appreciate seeing people in person and the delight in their eye when they buy something from us, or we can answer a question, and never be afraid to ask questions so you don't get burned as a novice collector or as any collector at all in general.
Correct.
So today we are going to talk about Guzzle-n-TWIRL. We'd like to encourage you to come. It's so many people, diverse backgrounds, stuff for sale, all brands of beer. We're going to refer in this brief segment just about hams because we're in the land of St. Paul here. We've recently come across a gentleman that worked for the distributor that was later bought out by Hamm's in the mid-60s and became their exclusive distributor. But he was into Grain Belt, Leinenkugels, a few other brands, but he basically had a 50-year career in beer, and they had to kick him out towards the end and say, you know, you can't come in here anymore, you're not a liability. But he loved to work. He would pack his lunch. Other guys would go out to eat at restaurants on their route. He was a former Marine, and he saved a lot of cool stuff. Steve, let's segue to the term NOS.
Okay, yeah. NOS is a term that we use a lot, probably overused sometimes, but NOS, I've had people ask me, what does that stand for? And NOS is an automotive term, at least that's how it started, and it stands for new old stock. In other words, it would be an item, in the automotive world, it'd be an item that would have been on the shelf, a part that was brand new in the box and never got used. Dusty box, whatever, but the part inside would have been an original factory part. So to find an item like that in any collector's world, especially beer, is quite rare. And when you do find that kind of stuff, the new old stock, I mean, obviously you're not going to ever upgrade it. It's going to be as nice as it can possibly be, and some people just collect NOS stuff or strive to find that. But obviously we're talking items that are 50 to 70 years old here, and maybe even older, that they just don't exist very often. But this guy that had this garage full of stuff we're still being amazed at some of the stuff that is turning up. We haven't, I don't think, even scratched the surface yet, but we have a few of those items with us here today that we'd like to show you and just kind of give a quick explanation on them and as to why they are so desirable and why they're called NOS.
And this guy bought, after the Korean War, a 1962 Cadillac convertible, and he still had it until he passed away. But the trunk was packed full of stuff. I gave him $100 for an empty cardboard box one time, and he scratched his head, but it was for a Cinerama. Nobody, you know, some people could care less about the box, but when paired with a mint Cinerama, or to have one in the box, that's the pinnacle of collecting. You should always buy the best you can afford, because if you buy junk, it will always be junk. Correct. But it will appeal to someone. Someone will buy it. Steve, why don't you bust out some of this stuff that,
okay.
One of the terms that delights me and gives me warm fuzzies in life is to hear Steve, an advanced collector, crusty old curmudgeon. I've never seen that before. When those words come out of his mouth, that is high praise. That is yes. So we have brought 4 things into his possession that were dropped off last night that has him say, I've never seen that. Steve, would you?
In 1968, Hamm's came out with a promotion, very short-lived, called The Smooth. And in that promotion, any collectors maybe see, there was the bathtub painting parties, the Hamm's Indian Maiden, for instance. There was a very few items that were made during that promotion, and because of the Indian Maiden especially, that was Campbell Methuen was their advertising agency. The trouble that they got into by introducing an Indian Maiden cost them the advertising program from Hamm's. Hamm's switched after that. So anything that has that particular slogan on it is very collectible and very cool. One of the items that Barry found today
I'll take it up to the camera.
is the smooth button. Now note the tagline on there. You know, that it is so good that it's almost illegal. I mean, I can't imagine that went over really well. You know, especially in 1968. So this button and they were brand new in the package. I mean, you couldn't beat that.
Wrapped in Kleenex,
Yep.
placed in a Ziploc bag, so that was pretty amazing.
So in that same bag was this button.
Oh, yes.
Now, most people would look at that and say, well, that doesn't have nothing to do with Hamm's. When I seen that, I says, you know, I have a cardboard easel back sign that touts the Consumer Reports with Hamm's being tested against 4 or 5 other brands, and it says, Consumer Reports says that Hamm's is the best tasting beer on the market. And I'll guarantee you that this button went with that program. I can't wait to get home and compare. The font and everything looks identical to that cardboard. And that's the only one I've ever seen. So,
Establishing provenance and finding it in with the smooth button, they went together. He wouldn't have taken the time to seed it with a poison, you know, incorrect button. It came, and why he just kept those, that's pretty amazing. To be new to Steve's eyes when he was, I mean, he's collected for a long time. That's terrific.
Another thing that's really cool about Hamm's is obviously Hamm's, St. Paul has a large Irish community. There's a lot of Irish people here. So they, on St. Patrick's Day, they all went all out. They had quite a bit of advertising for St. Patrick's Day. This little sticker that we found in this treasure trove was
Yes.
one that I had not seen before. It's either an early or a late one, but again, brand new old stock. And then Barry also has some other stickers, another Irish ribbon, which we found another version of that. They had taken the ribbon and they had peeled back the adhesive on the sticker and put that ribbon up underneath there.
Hold on,
And
this
that's
is the
how-
one
and
you,
that's-
yeah, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt with Steve. He's talking about this one, which you see more often, and it was stuck in here. It's good to have a visual here so you know what we're talking about. But these little small things, and these, do you ever remember, oh, I don't know, they had dimensional animal stickers and stuff that were almost like a vacuum bendable plastic. But for these to be on the wax paper, I mean, if they were in a temperature, you know, out in a garage that was hot, somehow these things survived and did not peel off or curl up or get discolored. But NOS, just amazing. These are so cool. Steve?
One of my favorite pieces in this little cache of stuff is a Hamm's 1950s ice scraper. Now these obviously were given out and meant to be used, and you know, living here in Minnesota, they get used 8 months out of the year. And to find one that has not been used, not been broken, not been faded, not been chipped, pretty amazing. In a nice royal blue.
And breweries always wanted to provide you with things that you would interact with and touch with and see their brand. So an ice scraper, I mean, you think of the multitude of things that breweries provided: pocket knives, openers, coin purses, things that you would touch, fridge magnets. Okay, and Steve, we were talking about provenance and dating things. This is a perfect segue
Yes.
to this envelope.
This I find very interesting. This was an envelope that was sent to the fella. It obviously, the logo is definitely a 50s logo on the envelope. The post date on this was 1965. So as we were saying, they had these and they did not waste them. They continued to use these, even though this logo was no longer used. They continued to use these envelopes. And in this envelope,
It's much like, too, you'll find Hamm's letterhead in the 30s and 40s that has the pre-pro eagle logo. But Prohibition didn't stop them from using something useful like stationery. If they had stationery, which was just beautiful, use it. It doesn't matter the era. The logo is timeless, and it's almost cool to see stuff, you know, the Regal Majestic Pre-Pro logo It really lent an air of class to your brewery and correspondence.
Now, into this envelope, and any of you collectors out there have probably seen this proclamation, but what is interesting with this one is it's got the extra little gold ribbon type of thing, plus it's personalized to that person. And I thought that was pretty neat. And then also, evidently when they visited the brewery, this was also given to them as a little thank you. Again, Hamm's was class, pure class. I mean, I don't know of any other brewery that was so in tune with the city, with the community as Hamm's was. I mean, they really, in through the different magazines and stuff that we see in the Reflection magazines, in the back they always have lists of the employees, and there's 35, 40, 45 years, 50 years that these employees have worked there their whole life. And now I tell people this: you don't keep an employee that long by not treating them correctly. And so Hamm's in that respect was just so revered here in St. Paul. I mean, it was part of this community, and they supported this community, and they bought things Minnesota. They didn't go to China or whatever.
Reynolds Aluminum,
Reynolds
cans,
Aluminum, Red Wing
Lakeside
Pottery,
Plastics.
Red Wing Pottery, Lakeside Plastics. Yeah, I mean, it was just, they didn't go overseas for their products. They bought them here at home, which really means a lot.
And I've heard both from my wife's grandpa was Andy Spall, who was the last brewmaster that technically worked for Hamm's. Started in '57 and got out of there in the Hubline era in the late, early '70s, probably '72 or so. He was the union guy too, as one of his job duties. And they said to a T, even the union, that Andy was a very fair man. They treated their employees well, gave them great perks, buying beer for $2 a case, I believe. And I've heard one guy that bought his allotment and kept his buddies in beer. They sponsored countless rec, softball, ice skating,
Bowling
ski
teams.
trips, the Skylanders Club. I mean, they were enmeshed and ingrained in the fabric of especially St. Paul for the brewery, and they aspired to be a national brewery. Something that I will show you too is in the 50s and 60s you would have styrofoam coolers, but this is early 70s and it's a canvas set or fabric. But to find one of these, the imprint is vibrant, never used, new old stock, but these wouldn't squeak like a styrofoam cooler. And then Steve, would you hold up? This is the late 50s bear. You can tell the bear by its characteristics when it was illustrated in the era, and along with that logo. But here was an item like the ice scraper that was meant to be used, to get grease stains on, to get holes in it. I mean, you could picture the father firing up the Weber kettle grill with a pipe in his mouth and maybe white buck shoes on and his pants pulled up too high and his hair greased over with Brill cream, drinking a Hamm's, grilling in that. And that's new old stock, never been used.
And the tag on it, made in the USA, baby.
Wow. All right, Steve, and then finally,
Oh.
why don't you bust out the
Now,
calendar?
we were talking new old stock. Now, this is what you get when we're talking new old stock. Here is the famous, I'm sure most of you have seen those, the Hamm's bear statue, calendar statue. This baby is brand new in the box. Randy Reniker, eat your heart out.
NIB is another term, right, too, Steve?
Yep,
New in box.
new in box.
And this was a bank. It has a slot in the base between the legs, and unlike the Red Wing Bear, this one has a means to remove your coins. The Red Wing Bear, a lot of times you'll find them with the feet busted out or the head because you couldn't get your money out after you deposited it. Steve, any more to say about the calendar bear? You have months available, right?
Yes, I have the month tabs, which are a lot of times missing. They made two different versions of this guy. They made one bank and one non-bank. So if you're buying a bank, and a lot of times it'll happen, and it doesn't really hurt it a lot, but a lot of times that little coin door is missing on the bottom. So that's one thing to look for if you are buying a bank version, that little coin door is missing. So yeah, the non-bank ones are probably a little harder to find, in my opinion.
And to conclude this video, we'd like to say, come on out to Guzzle and Twirl. You can always contact us, phone, email, and such. we love to hear that people watch and enjoy these videos. That makes our day, because we like nothing more than to communicate, connect with, share our knowledge, information, stupid dad jokes with you guys, because the more the merrier.
Amen to that.
So come on to Guzzle and Twirl. It's in the fall up here at Aldrich Arena in Maplewood, Minnesota on White Bear Avenue. And come and comparison shop and ask questions. If you have items like these from a family member, a former employee, if you're a bar owner, we know about it. We love it. We will give it a loving home, and just it'll make us smile every time we look at it.
If you have an item that you'd like to have appraised, that you'd like to know what it's worth, we'd be willing to help you there also.
And the best, like I said, the highest praise possible from Steve, I've never seen that before. So we'd love to say, I've never seen that before. And we will, if you care to part with it, we'll give it a loving home. If you want to know more about it, to tell people that come to your cabin or whatever, we'd be happy to add to the story. And let's add to our story at Guzzle and Twirl, because it's about time to set up. So like and subscribe, and we hope to cross paths with you at a show soon.